There's a most beautiful teaching that comes to us from a person who knew a lot of conflict in his life and a lot of heartache, and could even be said to have caused some heartache. And yet I find this teaching, this prayer, particularly powerful and appropriate for today. It's from Augustine of Hippo. And he asks us, imagine if all the tumult in the world were to die down, along with all our busy thoughts about earth, sea, and air. If the very world should stop, and the mind cease thinking about itself, go beyond itself, and be quite still. Imagine if all the things that are perishable grew still. For if we listen, they are saying, we did not make ourselves. He who made us abides forever. Imagine then that they should say this and fall silent, listening to the very voice of him who made them, rather than to the voices of his creation. So that we should hear not his word through the tongues of men and women, nor the voice of angels, nor the clouds' thunder, nor any symbol, but the very self which in these things we love, and go beyond ourselves to attain a flash of that eternal wisdom which abides above all things. And imagine if that moment were to go on and on, leaving behind all other sights and sounds, but this one vision which ravishes and absorbs and fixes the beholder in joy. We don't think nearly enough that the absence of peace also robs us of joy. It robs us of safety, sometimes it robs us of hope, but it also robs us of joy. The soul is here for its own joy, said one of the great Sufi mystics. And we allow so much to get in the way of that. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all is that some of what gets in the way of us is done in the name of culture or religion. When I was preparing this talk, I found a teaching from Professor Hans Kung, which I'd used years ago, which said, until there is peace between religions. But I think he actually means until people who have invited some form of religion into their lives can make peace with one another, there will be no peace in the world. Until there is peace between religions, between cultures, never mind nations, there will be no peace in the world. And that is our responsibility. And it's a very specific responsibility for those of us who come not confined by denomination, but who say we can step outside that as much as we may love our denominational fidelity. We can also step beyond it and be together, regardless of labels. We can be together as members of a single human family, even if it's just for a short time, in a week or a month or a year. You don't need me to tell you that there is nothing religious about any call to violence. That no matter how it's cloaked or dressed up, and no matter what scripture is quoted, there is nothing religious about any call to violence. And I'm very tempted to say there's also nothing forgivable in us if we respond to that violently. The very hard thing for us, if we want to walk the path of peace, is not to respond to that with more outrage, with more hurt, with more offence. We've had some wonderful teachings in these last weeks in this church from John Dominic Crossan. Some of you were here for that. And among the many, many things that he said that were so beautiful and so affirming of this path of peace is that civilization has taken it for granted that we will achieve peace through violence. And I've said sort of the same thing so many times, but particularly in the writing of Seeking the Sacred, that we live in a world in which intelligent people truly believe that we can solve social problems with war, with division, with contempt for whoever it is that happens to be the other at any particular time. This is not the message of any of the teachers who brought those religious impulses into our world at different times. This is not the message of Jesus. This is not the message of the Buddha. This is not the message of any of the teachers, the prophets, whom we respect and are prepared to listen to. There's a teaching from Buddhism which says it so accurately. Hate cannot cease with more hatred. Hate can only cease with love. And that's very hard for us when we feel offended, when we feel offense on our own behalf or on behalf of someone else. We feel entitled to meet it with outrage. But even if our outrage is quite subtle and quite subdued and well-mannered, it doesn't heal what we are trying to deal with. We can only heal it, not either by meeting it with some kind of wishy-washy tolerance that everybody should be able to go around doing whatever they want to do. Not at all. I think it behoves us to stand up and say what is right and what is wrong, and that violence is wrong. But somehow in there, we have to be able to do this without accelerating the violence, and certainly without adding to it. I think it means saying, I will not condone harm and I will not make excuses for it, either psychological excuses or social excuses. I will not make excuses for it in the lives of other people, and I will certainly not make excuses for it when it occurs in my own heart or mind or actions. You know, this is a tough thing. It's not an easy thing to be a peacemaker, but it is an essential thing. Our world is at a turning point. We either speak up passionately, we either act passionately for peace, or we are bystanders of violence. It's really a moment of choice. I think we also need to be able to say, I will not stand by silently while harm is done. I will speak up where I see that harm is done. Because enough people speaking up means that less harm can be done. And in my own dealings with others, and in my own dealings with the way that I think about myself, I will resolve to the best of my ability, and with God's grace, if we're humble enough to ask for that harm will stop with me. And when we do cause harm, that we will reconcile within ourselves and seek forgiveness beyond ourselves, especially with those we've caused harm to. These are not easy things, but why should they be easy? We are so privileged. We are so supported by the teachings that are available to us, by the insight of the greatest teachers of peace that have ever walked this earth. We, who are prepared to come together in what we could call an interfaith, post-religious, I don't know what you want to call it, it doesn't matter what we call it. We are privileged to hear this message from the north, the south, the east, the west, in so many different ways, as we've experienced just today, as we experience every time we gather together, through the music, through the silence, and through the words. Several times over the last decade or so, I have written peace testimonies, and I want to read one to you now. This is the most recent version, and I've put it up on my website, and I found a most beautiful peace symbol that somebody had created with people on a beach. And I found it so wonderful because there's so much renewal symbolized by the ocean returning us again and again, the tides going out and the tides coming in. And on this beach, these brothers and sisters of ours formed a symbol of peace. And I was able to use that with this most recent peace testimony that I want to read to you now. As a peacemaker, I will, and I'm reading it for each of us, cultivate peace through my choices and behavior, and know that they are my choices. That I will refuse violence as a solution to human problems. That I will regard life as unconditionally sacred. We'd have a revolution right there, wouldn't we? That I will take time to look and listen. That I will learn from my mistakes and move on. That I will speak to others and to myself respectfully. Another revolution. That I will extend my vision of community to embrace all living beings. That I will cherish the earth, on which I entirely depend. That I will learn the value of self-control and silence. That I will practice forgiveness, perhaps every day. That I will practice steadiness of mind so that I am less reactive, so that I am less enslaved by my reactions. That I will let myself see to the very best of my ability the unity of life and our interdependence. I depend utterly on you. You depend utterly on me. We all depend utterly on one another in the creation of heaven on earth. As a peacemaker, I will live as a source of peace for myself and others. I won't just ask for peace, in other words. I will see that it is my privilege, as well as my possibility, to generate peace in my own way, in my own imperfect way, to the best of my ability, with the stamp of my own personality upon it, that I will give peace in order that I might also receive it. Blessed be.